I love to read the Bible, and as I read the Bible, I read about all the different characters in the Bible, and some of them are just mentioned a time or two. And what I enjoy doing is using my imagination and see if I can develop a backstory or even a further story about those characters. And I love it when I find a book of someone who does the same thing. John Piper wrote a book called The Innkeeper with paintings in it by Glenn Harrington. And it tells a story about, it's a fictional story, but it's based on an actual biblical character. It talks about the innkeeper, and that's the name of the book, The Innkeeper. If you'd like to look for it on Amazon, you would enjoy reading this book. And this book is the story, really, of the innkeeper who had no room for Jesus, for Mary and Joseph and Jesus to be born, and he gave them a place in his stable. And the story takes place about 33 years later, about 2 weeks before Jesus goes to the cross. And Jesus comes to visit the innkeeper. He hasn't seen him in 33 years. And it's going to be an interesting encounter because the innkeeper paid a great price the year that Jesus was born. So let me just share the story with you. Jake's wife would have been 58 the day that Jesus passed through the gate of Bethlehem and walked slowly toward Jacob's inn. The people talked with friends and children played along the paths, and Jesus hummed a song, and he smiled at every child he saw. He paused with one little lass to draw a camel in the dirt, and then he said, "What's this?" The girl bent down her head to study what the Lord had made. She smiled, "A camel, sir," and laid her finger on the bulging back where merchants bind their leather pack. "It's got a hump." Indeed, it does. And who do you believe it was that made this camel with its hump? Without a thought that this would stump the rabbi guild and be reviled, she said, "God did." And Jesus smiled. "Good eyes, my child, and I would that all Jerusalem within that wall of yonder stone could see the signs of peace." He left the lass with lines of simple wonder on her face and slowly went to find the place where he was born. Folks said the inn had never been a place for sin, for Jacob was a holy man, and he and Rachel had a plan to marry and have a child or two and serve the folks who traveled through, especially the poor who brought their meal and turtle doves and sought a place to stay near Zion's gate. They'd rise up early, stay up late, to help the pilgrims go and come. And when the place was full, to some, especially the poorest, they would say, "We're sorry, there's no room, but stay now if you like out back. There's lots of hay, and we have extra cots that you can use. There'll be no charge. The stable isn't very large, but Noah keeps it safe." He was a wedding gift to Jake because the shepherds knew he loved the dog. "There's nothing in the Decalogue," he used to joke, "that says a man can't love a dog." The children ran ahead of Jesus as he strode toward Jacob's inn. The stony road that led up to the inn was deep, with centuries of wear, and steep at one point just before the door. The Lord knocked once, then twice, before he heard an old man's voice. "Round back," it called. So Jesus took the track that led around the inn. The old man leaned back in his chair and told the dog to never mind. "Ain't had no one to tend the door, my lad, for 30 years. I'm sorry for the inconvenience to your sore feet. The road to Jerusalem is hard, ain't it? Don't mind old Shem. He's harmless like his dad. Won't bite a Roman soldier in the night. Sit down." And Jacob waved the stump of his right arm. "We're in a slump, Right now, got lots of time to think and talk. Come sit and have a drink. From Jacob's well, he laughed. You own the inn? The Lord inquired. On loan, you'd better say. God owns the inn. At that, the Lord knew they were kin, and he ventured on. Do you recall the tax when Caesar said to all the world that each must be enrolled? Old Jacob winced. Are north winds cold? Are deserts dry? Do fishes swim and ravens fly? I do. A grim and awful year it was for me when God ordained that strange decree. How could I such a time forget? Why do you ask? Well, I have a debt to pay. I must see how much. Why do you say that it was such a grim and awful year? He raised the stump of his right arm, so dazed. Young man, I didn't know I'd lost my arm. Do you know what it cost for me to house the Son of God? The old man took his cedar rod and swept it around the place, empty, for 30 years alone. You see, poor old Jacob, runs it with one arm, a dog. No sons, but I had sons once. Joseph was my firstborn. He was small because his mother was so sick. When he turned 3, the Lord was good to me and Rachel, and our baby Ben was born that very fortnight when the blessed family arrived. And Rachel's gracious heart contrived a way for them to stay there in that very stall. The man was thin and tired. You look a lot like him. But Jesus said, why was it grim? We got a reputation here that night. Nothing at all to fear is what we thought. It was of God. But in 1 year, the slaughter squad from Herod came. And where do you suppose they started? Not a clue. We didn't have a clue that they had come to do what they had come to do. No time to pray, no time to run, no time to get poor Joseph off the street and let him say goodbye to Ben or me or Rachel. Only time to see a lifted spear smash through his spine and chest. He stumbled to the sign. That welcomed strangers to the place. And he looked with panic at my face, as if to ask what he had done. Young man, you ever lost a son? The tears streamed down the Savior's cheek. He shook his head, but he couldn't speak. Before I found the time to scream, I heard the words, a horrid dream. Kill every child who's 2 or less. Spare not for aught, nor make excess. Let this one be the oldest here. And if you count your own life, dear, let none escape. I had no sword, no weapons in my house. But Lord, I had my hands, and I would save the son of my right hand. So brave. Oh, Rachel was so brave. Her hands were like 1,000 iron bands. Around the boy. She wouldn't let him go. And so her own back met with every thrust and blow. I lost my arm, my wife, my sons. The cost for housing the Messiah here. Why would he simply disappear and never come to help? They sat in silence. Jacob wondered at the stranger's tears. I am the boy that Herod wanted to destroy. You gave my parents room to give me life, and then God let me live, and he took your wife. Ask me not why, that one should live, another die. God's ways are high, and you will know in time. But I've come to show you what the Lord prepared the night you made a place for heaven's light. In 2 weeks they will crucify my flesh. But mark this, Jacob, I will rise in 3 days from the dead and place my foot upon the head of him who has the power of death. And I will raise with life and breath your wife and Ben and Joseph too, and give them, Jacob, back to you with everything the world can store, and you will reign forevermore.